Hello! Welcome to Adventures in TV Land. For today's adventure, I've come to Claremore, Oklahoma to see the Museum of History that is here in Claremore. Now, there is a lot of interesting history in this part of Oklahoma. I know one of the things here at the Museum of History here in Claremore, they have some interest about Lynn Riggs, who is the author of a play called Green Grow the Lilacs, or something like that. And it's the play that was the basis for the musical Oklahoma. He is the one who basically wrote the story / in the book for the musical Oklahoma. And it's actually, the small town there is supposed to be here in Claremore in Oklahoma, which, years ago I did not know that, but it is. So we're just going to go in and we're going to see some of the exhibits and check it out.
Now this statue is a statue of Andy Payne. Andy Payne was from the area, and he was in I believe it was 28, they held a foot race from Los Angeles to New York. The main reason for it was to promote the newly Route 66, which had opened in 1926. But from the first part of the race went from LA to Chicago, and then I believe from Chicago to the New York followed the Lincoln Highway. But Andy Payne won that race. Speaking of Lynn Riggs, there is this statue of him on the side of the museum. Now, it should be noted, this museum is in the old library building. Most of the money was donated by Will Rogers himself, who is also from Claremore, Oklahoma. So the cornerstone of this library was taken from the wall of the old stables that Will Rogers' dad had built. And actually, this is the location of the site of the founding of the present-day Claremore.
Alright, we have here a citation from the state of Oklahoma for the creation of the Claremore Museum of History. Here's an exhibit on Helen Walton, who is Sam Walton's wife. She grew up here in Claremore, and as you can see here, she was a straight-A student, was active in her church, was a very active person. Now, Claremore, before it became famous, it was known for its baths, its radium water and the radium baths. There were several baths, public baths, downtown. Here are some containers because you could take some of the radium water with you. Now, radium water itself, actually, it didn't contain any radium, but it was considered to be very healing. This little exhibit here is about the early inhabitants of this area, the various natives who lived here, and the first Westerners who came into the area. All right, now here, history of Claremore from 1882. We're just following this around. We're not going to look in detail here, but all the way around until basically the present day. Of course, there's an exhibit here about Will Rogers. Will Rogers is the most famous resident to come from Claremore. He actually donated the money here for this building. This used to be the public library and is now this museum. Here is Andy Payne. It's the jersey he wore to win the Bunyan Derby, which was a race, as I mentioned before, to celebrate the opening of Route 66 in 1928. Route 66 opened in 1926, and they had this major race from Los Angeles to New York in 1928. And Andy Payne won. There's a few artifacts from Andy Payne, his later life. He went on to become a lawyer and worked in Oklahoma City. He had an office there. There's his briefcase and his law degree. Now here are some artifacts from the original production of Oklahoma, because the original story from Oklahoma was written by none other than Lynn Riggs, native of Claremore. Here's a pair of boots that the original Curly wore on the show. There was an original program of Oklahoma. And here's talking about Lynn Riggs and his early life. He had a connection to music. There's a microphone and his guitar. And he went on to become a very successful poet, playwright, and screenwriter. He had these models, kind of like a diorama that he would set up, and little figures. There's his original typewriter and camera. But then he would set the pieces up, kind of move the characters around to get the action and the flow of how the play would go. Behind the man with glasses. Now, Lynn Riggs, he was actually a Cherokee Indian as well. There's some personal artifacts, various artifacts of Mr. Riggs here. Here it says, Lynn Riggs, the Southwest's most important 20th century playwright, memorialized his hometown of Claremore in early Oklahoma through his writings. And you can learn more about Lynn Riggs here. The Cherokee brought Oklahoma to the world. Here is the original from Broadway, Surrey with a Fringe on Top, from the musical Oklahoma. Now this exhibit is about Claremore's astronaut. There was actually an astronaut aboard Apollo 14 who was here from Claremore. I believe his name was Stuart Rossa. Here's some more artifacts from Mr. Rossa. There's a model of the rocket that he shot from the Earth from. There is one of his uniforms, NASA uniform there. Now, someone else who was from Claremore, who was born here and lived here for part of her early life, was Patti Page, who was probably best known for the song Tennessee Waltz. That became her signature song. Here we just have some artifacts from the high school here in Claremore. Various awards, letter jackets, yearbook photos, mementos, things like that. A snippet of local history. Well, that was a really nice museum, the Claremore Museum of History. I knew about Lynn Riggs being from Claremore. I knew about Andy Payne, the famous runner who won the first foot race, transcontinental United States foot race in 1928. I knew he was from this area. I had forgotten that originally Patti Page, she was from this area as well. And then as well as Stuart Rossa, I believe is his name, the astronaut. So several famous people in American history. And of course, Will Rogers. There's a separate whole Will Rogers museum here in Claremore. So all those people were here from the Claremore area and grew up here. And then just a lot of interesting history. So if you're in the Claremore area, it's a free museum. Come check it out at the Claremore Museum of History in Claremore, Oklahoma. This has been another adventure in TV land. If you've liked this video, hit the like button. If you disliked, hit the dislike button. Subscribe to my channel for further content and ring that bell for email notifications. And if there's some place that you would like to see me visit, or you have a suggestion about some future video, leave a comment in the comment section. And if you've enjoyed this adventure, or any of the adventures in TV land, you can help support this channel by going to either Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon and making a donation or becoming members there. Thanks for watching. Until next time, that's a wrap!